Pip meets the convict, a full retelling. The day was heavy with mist, the marshes stretched out like a ghostly sea, and the wind moaned across the flat land. Little Pip, a frail boy with innocent eyes, wandered through the graveyard. His small feet crunched on the gravel as he traced the carved names on the cold stones. The names of his parents he had never truly known. He bent down to read them, whispering softly, as if talking to them might bring them back. But then, a terrible sound broke the silence, a rough, choking cry, a rustle from behind a grave. Before Pip could turn, a wild figure rose up from the earth, as if it had crawled straight out of the grave itself. It was a man, a giant to Pip, dressed in torn, dirty clothes. His face was smeared with mud, his hair wild, and an iron shackle clamped onto his leg. His eyes burned with a desperate, starving light. Pip gasped. His little chest heaved. He wanted to scream, but the sound stuck in his throat. The man seized him by the shoulder, shaking him like a rag doll. "Keep still, you little devil," the man growled, his voice hoarse with hunger. Pip whimpered, his tears spilling. The man leaned closer, his breath hot and harsh. "Tell me your name, boy." Pip, sir," the boy stammered, his voice shaking. The convict's hands were cold as iron. He glared down at him. "Pip, eh? You've got a mother?" "No, sir." "Father?" "No, sir." Both dead. The man's eyes flickered. For a moment, something softened. Perhaps he too knew the ache of being alone, but it vanished quickly, replaced by his need. He tightened his grip. "Listen to me, Pip. Bring me food, bread, meat, anything you can steal from that house of yours. And a file. Do you hear? A file. To cut this cursed chain from my leg." Pip's knees shook so badly he thought he might fall, but he nodded. "Yes, sir," he whispered. The man bent close, his dirty face inches from Pip's. If you breathe a word of this, I'll have your heart and liver out." Pip shuddered. His young heart pounded, but still, when the man let him go, he didn't run away screaming. He just stood there, trembling, watching as the convict limped back into the fog like some wounded beast. That night, Pip's tiny body was restless in bed. His sister's voice, harsh and sharp, echoed from downstairs as she scolded and clattered dishes. Pip's guardian, Joe Gargery, the kind blacksmith, sat silent as always, gentle but powerless before her anger. Pip stared into the darkness. The convict's wild face haunted him. The fear was deep, but deeper still was something strange, pity. The man had looked so broken, so starved, so desperate. At last, Pip slid from his bed. His bare feet touched the cold floor. In the kitchen, with trembling hands, he took a crust of bread, a slice of meat, some cheese, and even a precious pork pie his sister had made for Christmas. Then, with one more daring act, he snatched a file from Joe's workshop. His heart hammered as he crept out into the freezing marshes. The fog wrapped around him, thick as wool. Every shadow looked like a ghost, every whisper of wind like the convict's growl. Yet Pip pushed on, clutching the stolen food, and then, from the mist, he saw him. The convict crouched against a stone, shivering like a dog in the cold. Pip's little voice was soft. "Sir, I brought them." The man sprang forward, snatching the food with both hands. He tore at the bread and meat like a starving wolf, swallowing without chewing. Pip stood still, afraid, but then noticed how the man's hands shook, how his eyes darted as though expecting soldiers to appear any moment. At last the man paused, his breathing heavy, his face smeared with crumbs and mud. He looked down at Pip. You did this for me, boy." Pip nodded quickly, holding out the file with both trembling hands. The convict took it. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, to Pip's surprise, his eyes softened. There was pain there, but also something else. Gratitude. Perhaps even shame. "God bless you, Pip," he muttered, his voice thick. "You're a good lad. Better than most men I've known." Pip's eyes stung with tears he didn't understand. He was still afraid, but the man no longer looked like a monster. He looked like a wounded, lost soul. The convict turned away, filing furiously at his iron shackle. Pip knew he should run home, but something made him stay for a moment longer, watching. He felt, though he was too young to know why, that this meeting mattered. That somehow, on this misty morning, his life had been tied forever to this desperate man's. And indeed it had. That single act of compassion, a little boy feeding a hungry convict, would return to him years later in ways he could never dream.